Yo, what it do, wealth champions? Y'all know what it is, man. It is time for the Cortez Hustle Show. And today we've got a power pack series that we're kicking off in our Friday edition, which is always the Economic Empowerment Hour. We focus on Black economic solutions to help overcome the challenges that we face here in this country. And we know that the Bible says money answers all things. So, yes, money can solve a lot of the problems. So, what are we going to do to get our economics in order as a community, as a culture of Black people here in America? Of course, we've got news every entrepreneur can use. You definitely want to check that out. And then, like I said, we're going to talk about the 5 basic necessities that we should be focusing on providing for ourselves as a community. And we're going to dive into, I'm going to give you all 5 of them, but we're going to dive into one of them each week for the next 5 Fridays. So I hope you guys are as excited as I am about this series. So let's run this intro.
It up, put the hip shit on the shelf. Cause the way the real wealth is being real with self. My eyes done seen the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help. It's time to switch it up, put the hip shit on the shelf. Cause the way the real wealth is being real with self. My eyes done seen the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help.
Money, money, money. That's all he
Guys,
talks
there's
about
nothing
is
wrong
money.
with being wealthy. Like Kanye West says, having money is not everything, not having it is. No, Deuteronomy 8:18 says God gives us the ability to create wealth.
Money is the root to all.
No, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil.
All like money. Oh, kid.
Yes, I do think about other things than money.
Money.
I'm just trying to leave a legacy for my money's not everything, but when you got it, you can do some cool stuff.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cortez Hustle Show. I am your host, Cortez Hustle. For those of you who do not know me, my entire mission in life is to empower you economically through financial literacy with a strong emphasis on personal brand development and entrepreneurship. And today it's Friday, so you know what that means for the Cortez Hustle Show. Every Friday, we bring you the Black Economic Empowerment Hour, where we focus the entire hour on solutions that will help Black people in America achieve personal economic independence, which will, in my opinion, bleed into building um, collective economic independence. And we're going to talk about 5 basic necessities that we should be fulfilling for ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. And I get excited when I start talking about this stuff. So hopefully I don't offend anyone. But a lot of this stuff just needs to be said, ladies and gentlemen. And I ain't afraid to say it. So I'm not the one to focus on the problems. We've got enough people doing that. So I will let them continue to focus on the problems. I'm going to focus on the solutions. Real quick, man, I've got to say this while we are in the midst of this, not only corona pandemic, but also we're in the wake of the George Floyd situation. His murder has led to protests and uprising all over the nation. And, you know, I want Americans, especially Black people, to understand that yes, there's a lot going on that front, but at the end of the day, you still got to make sure your household is in order, your personal finances are in order, and there is a lot of opportunities that are presenting themselves. I saw a commercial last night from an entrepreneur who created a little tool. He called it a key. I forget, it's a military group, but I forget the name of the tool. But it's basically a tool that you keep with you to open doors and basically to keep from having to touch anything to prevent from contracting the coronavirus. So there's opportunities out there like that all over, and you have to see them. And I know sometimes it's difficult in the midst of everything that we have going on to see all of the opportunity that lies before us. But please, ladies and gentlemen, do not miss your chance. My favorite hip hop song of all time is "Lose Yourself" by Eminem, man. Um, don't miss this opportunity. This is your chance to blow, man. It might be your only chance, right? So do me a favor, as you guys are coming onto the stream, if you're watching us live on Facebook and or YouTube, make sure you comment where you're from. Also drop the name of your business and or your brand. I'd love to give you a free shout out. But then your cost for admission to today's show is a simple share, man. Make sure you guys hit that share button. We're going to get right rolling with news every hustler can use. You guys know I love to jump into Black Enterprise Magazine.com to show you some of the latest and greatest articles of entrepreneurs from all over the world doing amazing things. Hopefully that serves as a way of inspiration and motivation for you. So let's see what they got going on. And I go right over into the entrepreneurship section. Let's see. Black business owners raised over $1 million to rebuild his bar after looters burned it down. Love seeing that. What an inspirational story. Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis, I'm not even going to try to say his last name, man, becomes co-owner of sports nutrition company Ready Nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, the show is always sponsored by Monetize My Life, right? 4 incredibly simple ways to turn your passions into profits. And I think this is incredibly important. And I love this story. Why? Because I subscribe to a wealth formula called Cash Asset Cash. All that simply means is you take your gift, talent, or special ability and you make it produce for you, whether you produce that on a job, whether you produce that in business, in sports, or whatever. Then you take some of that cash, you buy, build, or invest in an asset that's going to bring you more cash. And guess what Giannis has done? He has taken he took his talent of playing basketball, and he turned that into some cash with a fat NBA contract, right? But then he took some of that cash, and now he has become co-owner of a sports nutrition company called Ready Nutrition. That's an asset, and that asset is going to bring him more cash. Tedria says she shared. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. So that's a great story. I can't wait to dive into that one. Let's see what else is going on in the world of entrepreneurship with amazing Black entrepreneurs getting it in all over the world. CDFIS get an additional $10 billion in PPP funding from Small Business Association. So looks like there's some more money available for community development and business. Small businesses to continue to thrive and survive during this time. Let's see, why painting is the most important step in decorating your home. That's a sponsored ad. I don't know how they always trick me into reading that one every time. This Black-owned sunscreen brand just secured a $1 million investment amid COVID-19. Why is that important, ladies and gentlemen? Because amid COVID-19, so many people are using this as an excuse not to produce. So many people are using this as an excuse not to produce, and they just got $1 million investment into their brand. So a Black sunscreen brand, I like that. 75% of consumers aim to back local businesses more extensively post COVID-19. I think that's going to be true. I think more people are going to look into supporting their local entrepreneurs or local businesses and circulating that money within their communities, which is great. Black people definitely need to do more of that. Let's see, this natural hair entrepreneur is expanding her brand to include hand sanitizer. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you are a producer. See, she's already producing natural hair products. She's already got bottles. She's already got packaging. This is what we call in business a pivot. A pivot is not an about face. It's not a full turn from what she does and what she does best, but she recognized an opportunity to provide PPP products and services. So she added hand sanitizer because I'm sure she's already creating products with alcohol in them, right? It's a matter of shifting some machinery around a little bit, and it might just be she's sourcing hand sanitizer in bulk and putting it in her own packaging. Who knows? But are you in position to pivot as an entrepreneur during these tough times to continue to grow your business and or your brand? You guys know I also like to go over to Forbes and see what they are saying um, about the billionaires in this country, which is funny. They said Kylie Jenner is no longer a billionaire, which is funny because she may not no longer be a billionaire, but to be worth hundreds of millions is, I think she's okay, right? Let's see, used car seller, billionaire Ernie Garcia the second and son accused of insider trading in lawsuit. See, these are rich people problems, right? Insider trading. These 10 billionaires got $34 billion richer this week alone. See, this is why I call this news every hustler can use. Wouldn't you like to know what billionaires did this week to increase their revenue and their net worth by 34 billion, right? Betsy DeVos earned at least 56 million while in office last year. So I just like to see what's going on in the world of billionaires as an aspiring billionaire myself. I want to see what they got going on, man. What kind of problems they have, what kind of things they're solving, what kind of business they're running, what's making them the money. When we come back on the other side of this break, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to dive into the 5 basic necessities that Black people should be producing for themselves and how it could transform our economies, how it could transform our community. In fact, the impact that it will have on the entire world, ladies and gentlemen, if we get serious about providing for ourselves. So don't forget to hit that share button and keep it locked right here. The Cortez Hustle Show is brought to you by Financial Health Mentor, practical proven wealth building strategies specifically for working class Americans. Go to financialhealthmembership.com, learn how to get your taxes down, credit up, get out of debt, and start accumulating assets. financialhealthmembership.com. Cortez Hustle Show is also brought to you by freefunnelmachine.com. If you've ever wanted to use sales funnels in your business, but not quite ready to fork over hundreds of dollars per month for funnel building software, then now you can incorporate sales funnels into your process absolutely free. Freefunnelmachine.com includes free autoresponder, includes free training, and it is free for life. Freefunnelmachine.com. The Cortez Hustle Show is also brought to you by Office Huddle Print Shop. All of the graphic designs, logos that you see for iHustle Media Group and the Cortez Hustle Show are courtesy of Office Huddle Print Shop. Check out their exclusive unlimited graphics package at officehuddleprints.com. The Cortez Hustle Show is a copyrighted production of iHustle Media Group. Any unauthorized use of video, captions, audio, depiction of this show is strictly prohibited. iHustle Media Group, a better way to market. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cortez Hustle Show. Do not forget, you guys can go get your free copy of Monetize My Life, 4 incredibly simple ways to turn your passions into profits. All you got to do is go to monetizemylifenow.com. If you cover shipping, I will send you the book absolutely free. So we're talking about the 5 basic necessities that Black people need to step up and start producing for themselves. And in doing just this, our entire world changes. So if you guys have never heard Professor James Smalls speak on this, he talks extensively about us being more producers than consumers, and not just being producers of any old thing, but focusing on producing the 5 basic necessities of life, right? Food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. If we do those 5 things for ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, that's where all of our jobs come from. That's where all of our businesses come from. That's where our community starts to be built. That is where our industry comes from. 5 basic necessities: food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. And when I'm talking about producing these things, we're talking about we have to get to a place where we are owning and controlling the entire industry from raw material to retail, right? Raw material to retail. So if this is going to be a 5-part series, ladies and gentlemen, and we are only going to focus today on food. What would it look like if we produced all of the food that we need to survive? That's it. Just just the food, ladies and gentlemen. And next week we will focus on clothing, and then shelter, and then safety and security. Those 5 components. But one of the reasons we are struggling economically, even though it is said that, I've heard from 1.6 trillion all the way to $3 trillion and spending power, and I have to, champion Boyce Watkins on this. When you're spending money, there is no power in that, right? That's not spending power, right? That's an oxymoron. There's no such thing as spending power, because you're giving your money away. But we do have at least $1 trillion that comes through the hands of Black America. And even when we're going through all of the protests as it relates to George Floyd, right? And some of the protests, and I agree with a lot of folks who are saying, hey, it's time to start boycotting and stop spending our money with communities that don't respect us. Stop spending our money in communities where they mistreat us and they don't want to see us in those communities and things of that nature. While that is noble, my question is it practical if we don't produce anything, or if we don't produce enough of something, right? Now, I believe that one of the biggest problems that we have in terms of becoming producers and global distributors of and national distributors of the products and services that we need, the basics that we need to survive, is we seem to despise humble beginnings. We seem to despise starting from nothing and growing that into something, even though that is the very thing that we've done to survive our entire existence, especially in this nation, right? We've always been able to take nothing and turn it into something. However, when it comes to business, in a lot of cases, if we're not starting with a grand marquee in the front of the building, we don't want to start at all. So I ran across this article. I'm doing some digging, and I remember that at the end of slavery, yes, we were promised 40 acres and a mule, and we never got it, right? However, even though we did not get the 40 acres and a mule that we were promised, somehow, going back to that turning nothing into something, Black people in this country amassed 14 million acres of land. We're talking about the 5 things that we need to be producing for ourselves that's going to create jobs, it's going to create businesses, going to create opportunities, it's going to create trade, it's going to create the stimulating of our economies, is going to allow us to bring jobs back into our communities. We amass 14 million acres of land. coming out of slavery, broke, busted, disgusted, have been working for free pretty much all of our existence here on this country in this country, and somehow we were able to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, as they like to tell us all the time, and we amassed 14 million acres of land. By the turn of the century, former slaves and their descendants had amassed 14 million acres of land. And this, just so you guys know the source, this is coming from modernfarmer.com. Modernfarmer.com. Black agriculture was a powerhouse. Per capita, there were more black farmers than white farmers. But by the turn of the 21st century, 90% of that land was lost. Some of that can be chalked up to the Great Migration, in which case a lot of us just left our homes in the South looking for greater opportunities in the North. And heck, if everywhere you turned you saw strange fruit, you would probably flee that situation as well. In fact, the law supported the hanging and the lynching and the you know, the mistreatment of black people in the South. So the Great Migration had a lot of people fleeing land that they owned, sold it for a little or nothing, and some people just flat out abandoned it altogether. But that wasn't the only thing and the only reason that we lost land, right? Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the stream. When Southern blacks fled to northern cities to escape the racist violence and systemic oppression of the South. Less known is the story of those who stayed in rural areas and their efforts to hold on to their land within a legal system that seemed designed to shift it and the generational wealth it represented to white ownership. See, a lot of the land from those who stayed, a lot of black people got that land swindled from them, right? They got it swindled from them. The legal avenues for finagling land from black farmers vary by state and the circumstances surrounding the property and its ownership. Here's a sampling of how it works. Whether due to distrust of the legal system or lack of legal resources, freed slaves and their descendants often lacked a will transferring ownership of their property when they died. This means the property became heirs' property. Ownership is split equally among all known descendants over time. The property is further split among the descendants of the descendants, creating over the course of generations, a quagmire of ownership among hundreds, even thousands of heirs. To use heirs' property as collateral on a mortgage, to subdivide it, to develop it, and any number of other things was a legally binding nature is difficult without first identifying and tracking down the owner. See, a lot of these things happen to remove property from blacks who owned it, right? And that was the beginning of us walking away from the land that we could use to produce food for ourselves. Riddle me this, ladies and gentlemen. If black people are some of the most chicken-eating people on the planet, right? And not just black people, but all people are, but they like to use that as a stereotype, and we know that we are. Why? Because traditionally, chicken has always been a little bit cheaper than beef, and in some cases, pork as well. So because it was cheaper, that's what we spent our money on, right? I mean, even today, you can get legs and thighs for a little bit of nothing compared to the white meat chicken and compared to beef and other forms of protein. So if we are some of the chicken eatingest people on this planet, why don't we have a national chicken chain of restaurants? Right? See, we're not thinking generationally. We're not thinking long term. we don't believe in what race actually is in this country because we've been so taught to be inclusive while every other race is participating in the race. Cortez, what is the race? The race is for world domination. Every race on this planet is in the race for world domination. White people are trying to dominate the entire world. Asian people are trying to dominate the entire world. Indian people are trying to dominate the entire world. Jewish people are trying to dominate the entire world. Black people trying to get along with everybody. I want y'all to hear that, man. I can't remember the guy name from. There was a documentary out called Black Friday, and they talked about our economic plight and how we got here. And I actually attended a screening of Black Friday Part 2, the remix, which is the second. And one of the people who were in the film was here in St. Louis. And he said something so profound that really helped to continue to shape my thinking along this path that we've got to get in the race for world domination, just like everybody else is. Now, along those lines, you will create some allies. You'll have some friends that can help you along that path because they're trying to get something from you. You're trying to get something from them. But at the end of the day, every race is on a path for their race to be the last race standing, and we haven't even gotten a game, right? But he said, and man, I hate when I can't remember someone's name and give them credit, but he said, Black people are the only people on the battlefield treating it like a playground. Well, I'm going to run that one back, man, because y'all got to get that. He said, Black people are the only people on the battlefield in this world of racing for world domination. That's what every other race and culture is doing. Black people are the only people on this battlefield treating it like a playground. And I was like, whoa, Cortez, are you treating this battlefield like a playground? So that's why I do these shows. That's why I bring up this topic. That's why we talk over and over and extensively about what we can do individually first and foremost, because my platform says, listen, we've tried it the other way where we try to build institutions and organizations and they all seem to fall apart. So I'm thinking, what happens if we build the individual first economically? We help them become more financially literate. And then some of those people who are solid, have a solid foundation economically in their own personal finances, in their own households, within their own families. They get together with 3 or 4 other families who are equally as solid financially. And then they start building together. That's how you build a community of people who are economically sound. So I'm just flipping it. I just think we focus on the individual, and then the individuals will come together with their knowledge base of financial literacy and how economics really work in this country. And then you start building communities that way. And then you start building institutions led by people who are economically motivated and understand the powers of finance. Because a lot of our institutions, even though we don't have that many, the few that we do have no clue about the economic game that's being played. Therefore, all of our institutions are broke, right? Dr. George Fraser says we can't even meet unless somebody else pays the bill. Meaning, if we wanted to have a convention to talk about solutions for George Floyd and police brutality, we can't even come together and meet unless somebody else sponsors it, unless somebody else pays the bill. Because even the heads of these institutions have no clue about how money works. And as a result, they're all dependent on donations because they don't create their own income. So, what we're talking about is what the world would look like if Black people in America focused on creating and producing for themselves the 5 basic necessities: food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. Let's look at food. Yes, we have work to do. Let's look at food, right? So, even though we left a lot of land in the South, out of our 14 million acres that we have massed, 90% of that is gone, right? But we still own a couple million acres of land that can be used. And when I say land, I mean farmland. So we still own a couple million acres of farmland. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that if we do not take a serious interest in farming, right? I know we're in the information age, and they want you to believe that the agricultural age has passed. How can the agricultural age pass when everything that we need to survive still comes from the earth? We still own land in the South. And there's a lot of land in the South, even some of the land that my family owns, right? Nobody's farming it because we've been tricked into believing that farming is not honest work. Raising hens is not honest work. That's the mentality that we have. So we've got millions of acres of land in the South. I mean, land that is fertile and ready to produce, and nobody's farming it. We've got land where we could be raising hogs, we could be raising cattle, we could be raising chickens, we could be raising turkeys, we could be raising, hell, rabbits. I don't know, but nobody's doing it. Because if we go back to what this article said, and this is what we got to help our people understand. And I remember one of the reasons that we didn't, and we'll get into this in a second, but one of the reasons that this happened is our parents drank the Kool-Aid. Our grandparents, our great-grandparents drank the Kool-Aid. See, when you have a family business, and that family business is farming, and instead of bringing the children up in the family business, you drink the Kool-Aid of the dominant society that says, hey, a college degree is better than producing income, and you send your children away to go get that college degree, and they get that college degree and they never come back to the farm. Then what happens is those children have children. And then every summer, they will send their children down to the farm to help grandma and grandpa. But guess what those children are going to do? They're going to send their kids to college. And their kids are going to go to college, and they're not going back to the farm. By this time, the grandparents who own and run the farm are too old to manage it. It's the game is shrewd, man. It's rigged, but it's fair at the same time, right? How can something be rigged and fair at the same time? It is. We know that it's rigged, but that's what makes it fair. See, it's only unfair when the game is rigged and you don't know that it's rigged, and more importantly, you don't know exactly how it's rigged. In our case, ladies and gentlemen, not only do we know that the game is rigged, we know a lot of the ways in which it is rigged so that we can overcome those things. So as a result, the generation above ours, not my mom's generation, not her mom's generation, but the generation above that, lost the farm. lost the will to farm, lost the will to do for self, ladies and gentlemen. So, what did the article say? The article said Black agriculture was a powerhouse. See, even today, they want you to think it's something of the past. No, Black agriculture is a powerhouse if we would but just get back to do it. Yes, it was a powerhouse when we owned 14 million acres of land, but I want to tell you something today, and I want to challenge that. I'm going to challenge that. Ladies and gentlemen, we still own 14 million acres of land that can be farmed. We just call them backyards. We still own 14 plus million acres of land, probably more. And even if we don't own it, we rent it. So we have access to more land today than we did when we owned 14 million acres of farmland. We just call it backyards. We call it front yards. We call it side driveways and carports. Ladies and gentlemen, we can start now with where we are, with what we have, and we can produce enough food to take care of 50, 60, 70% of our dietary needs right now today. Right now today. And there's a small revolution starting to happen, but we need more of it. We need more of it. Everybody listening to the sound of this podcast should be growing some edible plant at their house, even if you live in a condo. Every Black person in this country should be gaining the experience of growing some sort of edible plant at their house, be it their backyard, be it their front yard, be it the little gangway on the side, be it a windowsill in your kitchen, be it a basement with an aquaponics system, a hydroponic system. Every Black person in this country should be getting the experience of growing food. I've had a garden in my backyard for the last 12 years, I think, and got one back there now. And I don't even own this property. I'm renting this property that I'm in right now. It didn't stop me from going and digging this man's yard up and put me a garden in the back. Now, when I decide to move, I know I'm going to have to clean it all up and I'm going to have to put some sod down or something and fill that patch in. But I'm growing food not so much to provide sustenance for myself at this time, but to gain the experience of how to grow food. See, that's even more important than feeding yourself. Yeah, almost 100% of everything I eat still comes from the grocery store. Yet and still, I got a little tomato plant growing back there. Got me some collard greens growing back there. Got me some cucumbers. Got me a watermelon vine growing back there. Got me some cotton growing back there. For the experience of learning how to grow something. That's the key. It's not so much of me producing enough to feed my family right now. With the businesses that I run, it's tough, right? But I'm gaining the experience. But speaking of business, right? And I know we got to get to break here in a second, but speaking of business, one of the reasons we walked away from the farm is because we got tricked into believing that working a job for somebody else in somebody's factory, because the paycheck was consistent, that we were better off. Not realizing that every year that you get your farm to produce a crop, not only is the actual land that you're farming, the property that you own, the equipment that you use to manage the land, all of that is an asset that could be leveraged. And now that we know that the game is rigged, meaning, yeah, you can produce a bunch of crops and maybe you don't get as much at the marketplace. Maybe you don't get access to agricultural loans, and the USDA don't got your back like they have the back of farmers of other ethnicities and other cultural backgrounds. But we know that going in. So that means I've got to figure out how I'm going to navigate that when I build my farm. I know I'm not going to get any loans from the USDA. So how do I create a farming business where it could be a debt-free business? I can grow and sustain and scale my business without a bank's help. See, it's time to stop complaining about what we can't do and start focusing more on what we can do. So I'm going to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. When I come back, I'm going to give you a scenario that if we just produce one thing, how it can create hundreds of thousands of jobs. If we just create just one thing, ladies and gentlemen, how it can create hundreds of thousands of jobs. So y'all make sure y'all keep it locked right here if you haven't already done so. Smash that share button, man. Everybody should be participating in this conversation. So keep it locked right here. Cortez Hustle Show is brought to you by Financial Health Mentor, practical proven wealth building strategies specifically for working class Americans. Go to financialhealthmembership.com, learn how to get your taxes down, credit up, get out of debt, and start accumulating assets. financialhealthmembership.com. Cortez Hustle Show is also brought to you by freefunnelmachine.com. If you've ever wanted to use sales funnels in your business, but not quite ready to fork over hundreds of dollars per month for funnel building software, then now you can incorporate sales funnels into your process absolutely free. freefunnelmachine.com includes free autoresponder, includes free training, and it is free for life. freefunnelmachine.com. The Cortez Hustle Show is also brought to you by Office Huddle Print Shop. All of the graphic designs, logos that you see for iHustle Media Group and the Cortez Hustle Show are courtesy of Office Huddle Print Shop. Check out their exclusive unlimited graphics package at officehuddleprints.com. The Cortez Hustle Show is a copywritten production of iHustle Media Group. Any unauthorized use of video, captions, audio, depiction of this show is strictly prohibited. iHustle Media Group, a better way to market. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cortez Hustle Show. I'm your host, Cortez Hustle, also known as the one and only financial health mentor. And my entire mission, man, is to empower our people economically through financial literacy with an emphasis on personal brand development and entrepreneurship. So before we went to break, we were talking about the fact that we need, as Black people, to focus on producing the 5 basic necessities that we need to survive: food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. And I want you guys to understand how this can redevelop our communities, right? Say, for instance, we just focused on one product, right? We're just gonna focus on creating one product. And if we have the mentality that we're going to own this product from raw material to retail, right? That's the focus. Now, let's be clear. I understand that we can't do this day one. But ultimately, that's the goal, to own the industry from raw material to retail, right? So the example I like to use is ketchup. What if all we produced as Black people, and just to get this thing started, we're just going to produce ketchup? That's all we're going to produce right now. We're going to focus all our attention, all our efforts on producing ketchup. Why ketchup? Well, we know that whenever you produce a product, you're going to need distribution. Well, guess what? We've already got distribution all over this country called Black-owned restaurants, right? So, what does it take to produce ketchup? You need tomatoes, right? That's number one. You need tomatoes. Now, some ketchups also have some garlic in it, right? So that's two things that we need to grow. We need to grow tomatoes and we need to grow garlic, right? What else is in your favorite ketchup? Anybody know the ingredients of ketchup? I just know tomatoes and garlic. Uh, Corn syrup. So we're gonna say we're not gonna create ketchup with corn syrup, but there's probably sugar, right? So we'll say we need to grow tomatoes, we need to grow garlic, and we need to grow sugar cane so we can produce sugar, right? That's all we're doing. We're just trying to produce one product that's going to be mass distributed and consumed by our people. We're going to call it Blackman's ketchup, right? Get it? Blackman's ketchup. And that's all we're going to produce, right? So we know that we're going to have to connect with some form. Oh, and let me get this right so I can see your name. Tadria said salt. So now we need to mine some salt, right? Now, let's just say, for the sake of this example, we don't own a salt mine. So we're buying our salt. So we create relationships with the people who create salt or who mine salt. So we don't own any salt mines, so we got to buy our salt. And that's okay because we're just getting started. We're not growing sugar cane right now. We are sourcing that. So we're buying our sugar and we're buying our salt. But we are going to grow our garlic and we're going to grow our tomatoes, right? I want you guys to think about how many jobs will be created if the only thing we did was produce ketchup. So let's try to come up with how many jobs. First of all, somebody has to grow the tomatoes, right? So we start out, and somebody's grandma or grandfather has got some tomato seed that they've been growing heirloom tomatoes since forever. So we're going to get our heirloom seeds from that person, and we're going to start growing these tomatoes, right? On the little bit of farmland that we have left, we're just going to grow tomatoes. Well, once you grow all the tomatoes, that's one job. Somebody has to grow the tomatoes, right? Even before you grow the tomatoes, there are other jobs that have to be in place. Somebody has to prepare the land for the planting of all of the tomatoes. So that's a job, right? And we're talking about growing enough tomatoes to make enough ketchup to feed 40 million Black people in America. Ketchup, right? Let's see. I don't know if I can even find how much ketchup. Let's see. Do Black people consume? We need to have enough tomatoes grown I was trying to see if I can find out how much ketchup black people consume, but I'm sure it's a lot, right? We need to grow enough tomatoes. So that means we have to cultivate enough land to grow enough tomatoes. So the cultivating of the land is a job. The planting of the seeds is a job. The growing of the tomatoes and the maintaining of the tomato plants is a job. Then you got to pick those tomato plants, right? And when you pick those tomatoes, then you got to go and process tomatoes, right? So now these are all the jobs that could be right there in our communities, right? We got big fields of tomatoes, so why don't we just build a tomato processing plant, right? And then when we are building the tomato processing plant, well, guess what? Somebody has to take the tomatoes from the farm to the processing plant. So now we get into trucking. We know that we got a lot of black truckers, right? One of the most lucrative opportunities that our brothers and sisters can get into is over-the-road trucking. So we grew some tomatoes, we harvested the tomatoes. Now we have our black truckers hauling the tomatoes from the fields to the processing plants, right? Then those processors, they have to process the tomatoes. They have the special recipe, and all of the people who work in the tomato processing plant, that's job opportunities that's created, right? Finally, the tomato is processed and turned into tomato sauce or into ketchup. Meanwhile, we had to do the same thing with the garlic. We had to process some fields. That was a job. Then we had to harvest some garlic seeds from somewhere. And then we had to plant some garlic. Then we had to harvest the garlic. Then the garlic had to be taken from the fields and sent to the tomato processing plant, or the garlic processing plant first. And then it's turned into garlic powder that can be added into the ketchup, right? I want y'all to just imagine this is just one product, and we've already created a few dozen jobs, right? Then the ketchup has to go in some sort of container. Imagine that. So now we've got to source some containers, some plastic bottles, some packaging for for ketchup packets to go to different restaurants and all of this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Well, guess what? That plastic bottle also has to have a label on it, right? Tadria is with me. She said advertising for the product. So all of these jobs are created if we produce. If we produce. What's going on, Richard? All of these jobs are created if we produce. And then once the labels are created for the packaging, then all of the ketchup bottles and a package of ketchup, they have to be boxed. Then they have to be shipped and driven to, via our black trucking, the distribution hubs. And they have to be delivered to all of the restaurants and all of that stuff. But I want to take it a little bit deeper so that y'all understand what production happens. Those labels that are on the ketchup bottle, how do they stay on the ketchup bottle? Some sort of adhesive, right? You think black people are smart enough to figure out how to create some adhesive that will make a label stick? Those labels that are on the ketchup bottle have to be designed. You think black people, some of the most creative people on the planet, can get some graphic designers to design some logos and some labels for our black men's ketchup? Do you know that most inks today are produced from soybean oil? So now, if we look at this one product, this ketchup, and we're thinking long term, we want to own all of our processes from raw material to retail. So maybe when we started out, only thing we produced was the tomatoes and the garlic. We had to buy the bottles, we had to buy the labels, we had to buy everything that we need. right? But as the years go on, you think we can't figure out how to become the bottling company for our ketchup. As the years go on, you think we can't become the label company for our ketchup. As the years go on, you think we can't create another institution that grows all the soybeans and have the soybeans processed by another group of us who turn the soybean into soybean oil, and another group of us turn the soybean oil into ink, so that the labels can be printed for our Blackman's ketchup. We got to produce, y'all. And if we continue to go down this rabbit hole, we'll create 100,000 jobs just creating ketchup. How do I know? Because if I go to Google and I type in how many people work for Heinz. Kraft Heinz Company employs 38,000 people. And what do Heinz do? Make ketchup. Now, these are 38,000 people that are hired by Heinz, the people who just make the ketchup. It's not including the people who work for the trucking companies that haul the ketchup. It does not include the people who create the plastic bottles that the ketchup go in. It does not include the people who work for the labeling company who print the labels that go on the ketchup bottle. These 38,000 people do not include the people who grow the tomatoes. They do not include the people who grow the garlic. They do not include all of the salespeople in the distribution chain that is created. They do not include the wholesalers who's going to sell the ketchup to the different retailers. They don't include the buying operations that, are you guys starting to see? This is one product. It's one product, Blackman's ketchup. We just create Blackman's ketchup and we created 100,000 jobs. What happens if we produce 50, 60, 70% of all the food that we consume? How many jobs will that create? If we can create 100,000 jobs with Blackman's ketchup, how many jobs can we create if we produce just 20% of all the other stuff that we consume from a food product? I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just saying. See, we think that it takes an extraordinary amount of energy and effort, man. Listen, man, it's Richard, you're on it. Real solutions, do for self. That's all. That's just start where we are with what we have, and it's enough. And hell, if we plant some tomatoes and we process those tomatoes by hand, and all we can produce is a couple cases of tomatoes per month, just start right there. We just start right there. And we sell our couple cases of ketchup every month. And every month, our demand for the ketchup should grow and increase. And it won't take us 100 years to grow to the size of a Heinz or a Hunt's Corporation. It won't. Blackman's ketchup, y'all. Appreciate y'all indulging me on my rant, man. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the top of the hour, but do yourselves a favor, man. go grab my free book, Monetize My Life. 4 incredibly simple ways to turn your passions into profits with little to no startup costs. I'm giving this book away for free. All you got to do is cover shipping. Go to monetizemylifenow.com and the book is yours. You cover shipping and I will ship it right out to you. Thank you guys, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with me on the Cortez Hustle Show. Until I talk to you guys next week, where we're going to focus on, we're doing the 5 basic necessities, according to Professor James Smalls: food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. If we provide just those 5 things for ourselves, is that enough to transform our communities? Next week, we're going to focus on providing the clothing. What happens if we just provide the clothing for ourselves? What would that look like? Till I talk to you guys then, I want you to get your money up because you absolutely can do it. But more importantly, you deserve